Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to show you guys. This is the Buck Range Elite. So Buck made a knife that I like. It's not absolutely without flaw, but I don't review a lot of Buck knives on this channel, and mainly it's because they make a lot of stuff that I'm not really interested in. I know a lot of people like them, and as far as I understand, their quality has dramatically improved over time, but still, I just haven't handled a lot of their stuff. When they reached out and said, do you want to take a look at this? I thought, well, this is more like the type of stuff that I show on this channel, and it kind of looks interesting, and the price tag for, what I'm seeing here on paper, because this is a USA-made knife, the price tag seems pretty good. So yeah, so they sent it in, and I got an opportunity to carry it and use it, and yeah, this is pretty good. I like being pleasantly surprised. So that's cool. I'll link it down in the description so you guys can check it out. There is, of course, this guy. There's the Mini. They also make the Pro Series, which is made, instead of aluminum and Magna Cut, you have 154 cm and GFN for less money. So I'll let you guys check all that out if you want to. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's up to you. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Make sure your notifications for the Metal Complex YouTube channel are turned on. Overall length, this is the larger guy, by the way. I'm getting 7 3/4 inches overall. Blade length is 3 1/4, and your cutting edge is 3 1/8. Let's do some size comparisons. Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and Others, up against the 8010 and my own Excalibur. These are much larger knives at about 8 1/2 inches, but this isn't what I'd call a small knife. It's more of a medium to medium large size EDC. Let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. Kind of in between for sure, but more cutting edge, at least identical cutting edge to the Spyderco PM2. Sorry, I didn't focus very well. I was focused on my hand. And then finally, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, and then I'm going to remove these, and I'm going to put it up against two major competitors. The Hogue Deca, and of course the Benchmade Bug Out. It is no surprise at all that there is yet another knife, that it's Buck's, I literally just said and forgot, Bug Out, right? Why is everybody copying the Bug Out? You can't really copy something that is the most generic handle and blade shape of all time, right? It just became the idea behind it, especially with Benchmade's whole gray man marketing thing. Do you guys remember that? Yikes. But yeah, I mean, the whole idea, lightweight, compact, super generic, straight lines, right? It's very aesthetically not risky aesthetic. And the end result is that it is a product that works really well for the average person, right? Even sometimes outside of that. So yeah, it does work. This is a little taller, but it's essentially the same idea here. The Deca, also very, very comparable. Now, of course, the Deca, made by Hogue, these are all made in the USA. The Deca is a nice knife. They hit their HRC ranges, and they don't charge too much, in my opinion. I think their prices are pretty good. Buck is essentially the same thing. Benchmade likes to not heat treat things properly and charge you full price plus extra plus the butterfly tax plus your kidneys just because, and you know what, throw in your car because screw you. Like, that's kind of how the pricing feels, right? So yeah, I do like some Benchmade knives for sure, but their pricing has just been so outrageous lately. I mean, of course we're gonna have companies like Buck and Hogue and whoever else jumping in to go, well, we can make that for less, right? And still be plenty successful. So yeah, I think that's a good move there. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. A little bit of log stick there. We're going to talk about that carry profile thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. This is a beautifully thin knife. And what I like about it is, despite it being thin, it doesn't feel delicate because of the material they chose to use. And even on the GFN version, which we will talk about, it still doesn't feel like a wicker basket that's been left out in the desert sun for a month, like the original Bug Out. I don't like those scales. It just drives me nuts. But yeah, the aluminum feels really nice on this. You get that lightweight, compact, super thin, construction without having the thing feel like it's going to like disintegrate when somebody sneezes near you. So that's nice. Very thin, length and height up against the PM2 and the Para 3. Very, very easy object to carry. This was actually a joy. Almost a complete and total joy to carry and use. It's been, with this guy, I spent a little more time, maybe a week and a half. So yeah. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. I think these are they all T8? Let's see, that's a T10. We're going to check that T10 for the pivot. I'm glad I did. That's a T10. And then here, I bet you all the body screws are going to be T8. Yeah, T8. T8. Now, how about these screws? No. These, ooh, those look itty-bitty. Are those even T6? Goodness gracious. Here's a T6. Buck, what are we doing here, guys? What the heck are these screws? This is a T6. This doesn't fit. Do I have one small enough for this? Here's a T5. These are T5? Why are we doing this? But guys, one screw, T8, please. I never actually even checked this. I love that it's a clip that we can flip around to the other side. This is awesome. I love that. But two T5s? I don't like that. Is that really? Gosh, it just seems crazy. No, I was wrong. I was wrong. That's my fault. I just didn't quite get it in there. The guy from the buck rep's like, this idiot. It's a T6. One screw back here. I think you guys, well, the problem is the reason they didn't, here's why they didn't do that. It's because they have the seam construction. That makes perfect sense now. But I'm glad that we have the option to flip the pocket clip around. So my criticisms are not valid in this case. That was my fault. These are T6 and I can understand why they have two. But anyways, it's mostly going to be a T8 kind of situation, and then you'll have to take those two T6 screws out there. Far from impossible. The only real issue that you might have taking it apart is dealing with the crossbar lock, which, you know, if you've never done that before, dealing with a crossbar lock can be a little bit frustrating. So make sure you have the right tools for the job and you should be good to go. Let's go ahead and weigh it. What are we looking at for materials? In this case, aluminum. We have a little steel cartridge liner to house the crossbar lock, and then we have a MagnaCut blade. How did Buck heat treat that blade? I got this directly from Buck. If you go out and you Google it, you're going to see a bunch of different ranges for Buck knives in terms of MagnaCut. Probably when they started to get going with MagnaCut, nobody was really sure exactly where to hit it. I think Buck clearly listens to the community. This knife was heat treated to 62 to 64 HRC. Round of applause for Buck. That's awesome. Thank you for doing that and not just doing whatever you want to do, which is what a lot of companies still do. They're like, no, we're doing 60 to 61 MagnaCut. Who cares? We appreciate that. Definitely. That's really, really cool. And that's going to be a big decision maker for a lot of people, especially on this channel. The weight, it's a pretty thin blade. We're going to measure it here in just a second. Fluid ounces. We don't want that. We want, there we go. 3.5 ounces. Pretty darn good ratios. Obviously, the one that has the GFN scale is going to be a little bit less, but 3.5 ounces of weight, which in my book is only half an ounce from what I consider to be ultra lightweight. And I don't like carrying knives that are too far under 3 ounces because I lose them or I keep them in my pocket and they go through the washing machine, right? So 3.25 inches of blade and 3.5 ounces of weight is a pretty good ratio. And the balance of the knife is maybe just slightly back of where you're going to have your index finger. So it feels really, really great in hand. No complaints there. Let's measure the blade stock thickness again real quick, and then we will be good to move on into the meat and potatoes. This is a very thin blade coming in at 87 thousandths. All right, meat and potatoes time. Another thin, lightweight, compact EDC knife that resembles the Bug Out, right? Some people are tired of these knives and some people are not. It doesn't really matter. I think that it's cool that we have people, especially in the USA made space, and we got tons of these knives from China. right? If you're on a budget and you're like, I don't care if it's made in the USA, I just want something that's like the bug out. I don't want to pay like even $50 for it. Well, you have an ocean of, I mean, like seriously, there's like 50 different models you could choose from, right? But many people, and there's a massive percentage of people who watch my channel who are very much like, fine, people can do what they want. I want to buy a knife that's made in the USA, right? Or sometimes it's, I want to buy a knife that's not made in China. It can be literally made anywhere else. It's not made in China. Whatever. I'm glad that we have true US competitors to the bug out and Benchmade who will make this stuff that is definitely popular, right? You think whatever you want about it, but this profile and this whole idea, lightweight, compact, thin blade EDC, this is a popular thing. And for those people who really want to have it made in the USA and not want to pay an arm and a leg for it, it's really nice that we have competitors here. I think Buck saw more space. They said there's still there's still space for this. They said we're going to go ahead and do it. I think it was a good idea because they executed it very, very well. Number one, ergonomically, really great. Sometimes it's hard with really thin, like you do too much of an angle on the edges. You don't bevel enough, and it's just uncomfortable. This is comfortable. It doesn't feel flimsy. It doesn't feel like I can squeeze it or break it or anything like that. We didn't really talk about deployment. I wanted to save this because this is one of my one criticisms. I don't know how everybody else, what everybody else is experiencing, but these all came with lock stick. Admittedly, now I said all. This one, I also got a Pro or an Elite Mini, and I got a Pro full size, direct from Buck. All three of them had anywhere from medium to kind of lock stick. All three of them worked out. This one has been worked out the most, but it's also the one I've carried the most. It's still there. It used to be that I just expected lock stick with pretty much any crossbar lock, and if I'm getting a Benchmade knife, I still expect it. My experience with these is that it will inevitably go away. Sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's a month, but it goes away, right? This appears to be on its way to going away. We have a lot of companies from different parts of the world who are doing these crossbar locks that hold up plenty well. These are reliable systems, right? Outside of the Omega Springs are a little bit of a dice roll. Sometimes they last, 20 years, and sometimes they last a day. I think more often than not, they're lasting a fairly long time, right? But we don't hear from those folks. We hear from the folks who are having issues. But yeah, it's a reliable and strong locking system. A lot of times, they have lock sticks, but we have so many companies who have figured out how to do this without any lock stick, right? It's the bar really getting jammed in there, right? You can see the mark right there on the back. As this continues to wear in and enough material kind of wears itself into place, it will go away and maintain that lock strength, right? This just has a little bit of stick, and every time I go to disengage it, I'm just ever so slightly perturbed, right? Now, if I really kick it out, like there, takes a little more. If it's more of a lighter, kind of like right there, not as much, right? So the more I do that, I'm sure if I cycled it, deployed it, and retracted it another 500 times, I'm sure that would be even better. But there's the one little thing there. Outside of that, though, the action is really good. The thumb stud placement is awesome. Simple thumb studs remind me a lot of what Benchmade uses. Very easy to wheel out. One of the things I was surprised by was finding out that it's running on washers. This is ridiculously smooth. I mean, like, if there's one of the nicer things I can say about Benchmade is that their washer action is great. Washers, in my opinion, if you can get the action near or equal to bearing action, they're absolutely superior. Why? Because they're self-lubricating and they keep debris out of the pivot, whereas bearings are far more vulnerable in certain environments, and in some crazy cases, you can actually gunk your knife up to the point where it's inoperable or very nearly inoperable. Phosphor bronze washers, a lot of people associate them with a lesser tier of the knife world, and that's wrong. One of my most expensive pocket knives I requested be built on washers. It really comes down to preference and the idea behind the design in the first place. With Buck designing this knife absolutely 100% as a tool meant to be used by users, collectors, enthusiasts, whoever, right? But used, it makes sense that they would use washers, right? It's really impressive that they actually got the action nice. And as I continued to carry and use this, the action got better and better. You can see it's falls shut. And we are absolutely solid still on lockout. Impressively solid on lockout. Really nice. Moving into the blade, the thumb stud it's in the cutting path a little bit, but not too much. This is the edge is really thin. It's a slicer. Obviously, I like my big, aggressive, crazy pocket knives, but sometimes a knife that's just nice and thin and does the trick and does it quickly, that's what I'm going to go with. It's the reason that I have gravitated recently to knives like the Spyderco Sage 6 and, of course, the Demco Shark Cub. The Sage 6 might be kind of close. Like, this is a little thicker behind the edge, but they're all lightweight, thin, compact EDC knives. And as much as I reach for like wild and crazy stuff a lot, like when I'm just like, okay, I just need something that's, straightforward, convenient, utility, compact, it's this stuff that I'm reaching for. This is absolutely in the same category. Thin, lightweight, compact, and it's a slicer for sure. And it's also got a nicely heat-treated blade. Little bit of excess billboarding. They really stretch this out. Buck, and then you go a long way, you go 100 yards, and then you got the anvil, and then 100 yards later, you got the USA. I think you could compress this, and I think Buck, like this is just how they do it. I think it's like this on a lot of knives. I think you could make that much smaller and cram it together and maybe put it in front of the thumb stud, or maybe get rid of the model number here. Do we have to have that on there? We compress it and put it back here, or maybe even on the other side. That would be great. And then it just says MagnaCut on the other side. It's not that big of a deal. I don't like to see billboarding. Some people don't really care. It doesn't affect the knife functionally at all. But I think it would be nice if that wasn't there. That being said, far from the worst or most offensive billboarding I have ever seen. The blade is made well. We have a little tiny bit of widening on the bevel back here. A little itty bitty bit, not too crazy. The rest of it, honestly, looks great. The knife came with a very, I can't decide if toothy or sticky is the right word. But a very, very capable edge. Obviously, as time goes on, you'll have to resharpen that yourself. But felt really good. Nothing here felt like they didn't design this with care. I would prefer that the jimping was functional. This is too. It's not deep enough, and it's too rounded. I mean, like my thumb, moving along here, my thumb's like, oh, I think there's texturing here. Oh, never mind. I'm already onto the smooth part. I mean, there's not really much here to benefit from the traction. It would be nice to have deeper, Spyderco always does a really good job of this. Even when we're looking at areas like this where it's a little teeny tiny area, they look like incredibly sharp teeth, but really all they're doing is just creating traction. If I want to put my finger up here, the ramp is helping, right? But even on this smooth part, if I run my finger across it, I'm getting stuck here. That's what we want, right? This, I can't do that. I'm just sliding right over it. It might as well not be there. Fit and finish all the way around is actually really good. They don't need a backspacer. I don't know if this was, the idea here is to help, reduce the cost, because getting a knife made in the USA like this, with these materials and these tolerances, like in 2025, like it's kind of special. It's kind of surprising that they managed to do it. I was wincing when I looked up the price because I was like, oh, please don't be 300 plus, but way less. I don't know if deleting the backspacer and doing a seam construction, kind of like what ProTech does and a lot of other companies, actually assisted in reducing the total cost. I have no idea, but I think it looks cool, and if that reduces the cost, then great. Pocket clip is wonderful. It's a wonderful clip, medium retention. It's nice and short, doesn't create an ergonomic hotspot, and like I said, is able to be mounted for right-hand or left-handed carry, which is great because the locking system is ambidextrous. We have a stop pin located in its traditional spot, no shouldering, but it doesn't need it. No blade play, definitely still some lock stick, no pivot lash, very smooth for washers, very smooth. As far as the crossbar lock tension, it's definitely a little stronger than Benchmade, not the strongest that I've ever felt. But good. I mean, solid. The lock bar doesn't feel floppy. And then I think this has remained, it's on washer, so I can kind of mush it center, but it's remained like at least able to be mushed center the entire time that I've had it. I haven't had to make any pivot adjustments. What do they want for this? $219. That's pretty fair. That's pretty fair. I'm not upset about that. The only company right now that's really I'm not even going to say substantially, under that, for a fair amount, doing essentially the same thing or close to, would be like the most comparable USA made knife that's less would be Kershaw's Bel Air, right? What are they, 160? And they use micarta. I think maybe they do some in aluminum and they're kind of close. Pretty much everybody else, I think maybe some versions of the Deca are a little bit less, but maybe not in aluminum. And then you got another couple of companies here or there that are, somewhat fair. There's a couple of models here or there that are kind of like relatively competitive. And then you got like way off in Goof Town, Ding Dong City with the pricing. You got Benchmade charging, they almost charge as much. Their basic full-size bug out that's, GFN or FRN or whatever injection mold plastic they use, and S30V, which is a great steel, by the way, but, pretty basic. And I don't think they go out of their way to do a crazy heat treat on it. They want close to the same for that. I mean, all day I would say $219 for this. I think this is pretty great. It's nice to have a buck knife on the show, U.S. buck knife on this channel that I legitimately like. I enjoy carrying this knife. I don't think it's anything ultra special. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh my God, you got to rush out and get this. It's the greatest thing ever. But it is another option for people who want this build and they want it made in the USA and they don't want to pay Benchmade pricing. I think this is a pretty good offering. Overall, this particular version, we're going to talk about the other versions because I don't feel the same about every version. This particular version, I think, is a pretty good buy. I'm going to go ahead and say recommendable. I like it. I'm going to put this knife in my recommended knives playlist. I think Buck did a great job with it. Thanks again to Buck for sending this in. I'll link it down in the description, like I said. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.